The reason I named this channel Return to Your Nature is because I have this belief that when we were born as humans, as consciousness in general, we were born with all of the freedom necessary to love ourselves exactly as we are. There was no question of our worthiness, if we were good or bad. All of these understandings and beliefs about ourselves came later. And it takes months and over a year in some cases for a newborn baby to begin to understand that its hands are its hands. And when it sees its reflection in the mirror, it doesn't immediately realize that that's me. It takes time. And somewhere along the way, probably very early on in life, we are told for the first time by somebody that we are wrong, that we don't meet the standard of behavior in any given situation, or we don't have the intelligence that we're supposed to. We don't have the appearance that we're supposed to have. But usually that stuff comes later, the appearance stuff. But an example I have that I found in a book that I believe is called The Well of Being, talking about well-being. And in that book, there's an example that I love where a child who has taken a liking to painting is getting lots of good feedback from his parents, and they're telling him, oh, you're going to be the next Picasso, you're a natural, you're incredible. Until the child finds a bucket of paint and some paintbrushes, and he proceeds to paint the living room wall. And he hears the footsteps of the parents coming around the corner, and he gets all excited to unveil his next masterpiece to them. But instead of the response that he's gotten all the times before, they're furious, they're in shock. What have you done? Not only have you painted all over the walls, but it's dripped on the furniture. What a terrible thing you've done. Regardless of how they tell it to the child can understand that something bad has happened and it was my fault. And that feeling of sort of the wrongness is a trauma in a way. And I'm sure there's different degrees of severity of how that wrongness feels, or how that first experience, how impactful it is on our idea of ourselves. But regardless of how it happened, I would guess that most of us, in some way, have been told that we're wrong, we're bad, we weren't good enough. And so sometimes this happens in, say, like elementary school, where you get very good feedback at home from your parents. Your parents could be very encouraging, loving, give a lot of empowering words to their child, but then they go into the real world and they find that it's not quite as easy as it is at home. And the idea forms that they are not good enough. They're not as cool as the other kids, as funny, as they're not the fastest kid on the playground. And suddenly we start to develop this negative understanding of who we are and what we are. And a lot of people's lives are spent trying to get the validation back from those people who told them they were wrong. Sometimes the people who told them they were wrong was the society as a whole. And so we try to meet the expectations, fulfill that model that's laid out for us, for society's dream person. And we lose our authenticity when we do that. And it's motivated by that wound, that wrongness, that pain in us. And that's the reason we're seeking the validation, is so that people will soothe that pain by telling us that we are good enough, or just giving us good feedback in general. So suddenly a lot of our behavior becomes getting good feedback. And we become very strategic in our words and our actions and our appearance sometimes to get that good feedback, so that we are given the love that we no longer give ourselves. Some cases are more severe than others. I'm sure we all know people who seem to just, every motion they make seems to be for someone else, and they never really quite do anything for themselves. Although, recognize that it is all for themselves. It is all out of this need to soothe the pain of that wound. Eventually, people, hopefully, will recognize that the wound is there in the first place. Because what sometimes happens is you get so good at playing the game of getting that validation that it kind of serves as like a bandage, and it can kind of keep the pain away, so to speak. But eventually, I think, and again, so you can go through that life and you can have lots of friends and get lots of validation and feel very good about yourself because of it. But if you do end up in a point of your life where that validation is no longer there, and you're no longer in that community or group of friends that gives you that reinforcement, now you're left with that wound again. So while some people seem like they have it all kind of figured out in that way, and they seem like they really love themselves, they seem very confident, they probably, or oftentimes, haven't been forced to really look inside and find the source of that pain that's causing them to need that validation so much. Anyway, life is not just about healing that wound. But in order to find out what life is about, that wound does need to be healed. Because if you want to really understand what you bring to the table, you have to listen to your inner voice. You have to find that connection with your own desires, your own dream for who you could be. Not society's dream. Not the dream of your parents or some other community member that makes you feel pressured to be a certain way. Speaking about being that community member, that whether you're in a workplace, a school, wherever you are, we often contribute to the same judgment that forces us to feel so wrong in who we are. We see those people out of place and we jump to say, oh, look at this person, they're doing this wrong, or they're doing that wrong, or they said this, or they said that. And we all have seen people be ostracized for just being who they are. And so, again, part of why we name this channel Return to Your Nature is that's what I'm encouraging myself to do, and you as the viewer to do, is look inward, find where that pain is coming from, try to understand it, try to start to build a love for yourself, which will heal that wound. Create your own validation for being who you are, and develop a deep, deep love for yourself and relationship with that inner voice. And that's what you'll listen to. That's what will be your driving force, rather than the voices of the outside voices of society telling us who to be and how to behave. So I have never really felt normal or as if I fit the mold. And I tried to for so long, and really just developed a bad attitude toward myself. Almost a self-hatred in a way, in some ways, in some areas. But slowly but surely, I like I said, I looked inward. I asked myself, what's going on? Where is this pain coming from? even when I'm in a group of people and they tell me I'm great and they love me and they think I'm interesting or funny or just they like talking to me in general, that still gives me a great feeling. But I don't need that great feeling to love myself. That's not the thing that's not the key that unlocks the door to my own heart. I can open that myself now. I don't need someone else to tell me, you know. And once you have that relationship, a lot of things start to change. Your freedom opens up, freedom of mind. You can look at your desires as your own and say, okay, this is really what I want to do, not because of the feedback I'm going to get. And then you start to develop a true creativity because it's unhindered by the outside voices. You can just create as you want to. And that's a beautiful place to be. It's hopefully we can all achieve that. But with the current state of, I don't want to start talking about how society is structured and how that contributes to this. We'll get to that later, but right now, focus on yourself, see what you can do to make your own experience better, and pursue happiness in life, and be able to just look out and soak in the beauty that life has to offer each and every day. When you feel wrong, when you get stuck hating yourself or feeling that you're not good enough, there is a pain that you live with in every moment, and it stops you from living life as you should be. So return to your nature. Thank you, guys.